So you're all set for retirement. You've got everything planned. But what if there's a medical crisis during your retirement? Are you ready for that? Today I'm speaking with Raymond Levine, a caregiving planning advocate. We're going to discuss why it's important to plan ahead for long-term care, what planning choices to consider, and what people most often underestimate about caregiving. By the end of this video, you're going to understand the key considerations in planning long-term care. You'll learn some stress-reducing actions, and you'll get some alternative actions you can take if you're not ready to invest in long-term care yet. I'm Jackie Doucette, the owner of Beyond Retirement. I'm a retirement lifestyle planner, and I help you figure out what you're retiring to. Let's get to it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Beyond Retirement. I'm your host, Jackie Doucette. Retirement's supposed to be a chapter defined by freedom. But for many families, that freedom gets complicated when caregiving enters the picture. And what's really tough is that most people don't talk about long-term care until a crisis forces a decision. Today, we're going to talk about how caregiving can reshape retirement, how planning ahead can protect dignity, reduce family conflict, preserve the choices before the pressure's on. My guest today is Raymond Levine. He's a caregiving planning advocate who helps families prepare for long-term care realities before a crisis hits. His perspective is both professional and personal, shaped by his own parents' experiences. He's also the host of the podcast Planning with Purpose, The Caregiver's Blueprint, and he's the co-author of an Amazon bestseller, Empathy and Understanding in Business. Raymond, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on your program, Jackie. I'm honored.
Let's start by giving the listeners a little bit more about you. Can you share what you do to help people and what got you started with it?
Well, like a lot of people in my area of long-term care planning, I have a history of not being a personal caregiver, but seeing my father 3 times in his career that had long-term caregiving needs. And when I say long-term, I mean usually the way he did it, when he needed caregiving, it was spectacular. He fell off a horse and broke his hip and his arm, and he was out for a year and a half. Now, and he was a lawyer. My mother was a lawyer. In fact, they were in practice together. So that disrupted both their practices and their lives. And then the second and third time, he had a severe heart attack, and again, for long periods of time. And my parents were not insurance buyers other than what they needed to own, business insurance, home insurance, car insurance, things like that. But they weren't necessarily life insurance buyers. They weren't, and certainly, and it was a bit early for long-term care. They weren't long-term care buyers. But the final time that my father had his last heart attack, and then that was the beginning of the end. It took about 2.5 years for him from his heart attack to where he actually died. But it was an intense 2.5, 3 years. My mother bought a long-term care plan. And the reason she did is they both tried to get long-term care benefits, and he didn't qualify, but she did. And she was in her early 70s. But she, at that point, said, even though we can financially afford, to pay for care, this would be a good idea. And then when she needed, and my mother died a couple of years ago, and she was 103. It's a long story, but how I got into business. But a lot of people in my, have had some sort of caregiving experience, or they've observed, and so she used her plan for 18 years, and it more than paid for whatever the premiums that she paid. It more than paid for the 18 years. And she was a classic example of how somebody, might use long-term care, where she started off with having caregivers and, so many hours a week. And then as she got older and more frail, cognitively, she was in good shape, but physically, she just more and more needed a lot of care assistance. And even though financially, and when I say my mother was affluent, we're not talking about $3 million. That's usually the thing to say, well, and this is where financial planners or wealth advisors say, well, you don't need it. You have enough wealth. You don't. You don't have it because you may have the wealth, but wealth needs income, or people need income for the lifestyle. And she certainly had the wealth for her lifestyle and caregiving. However, she was an estate planning attorney, and she was practical. She said, "Look, even if I could, I'm really better off having transferring some of the risk to somebody else to pay for my care." And just to give you an example of what her care cost, if you figure in West Los Angeles, and having 24-hour caregiving at $50-$60 an hour, do the arithmetic, 30 days times all the hours times 365 days. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of
Yeah,
money
it
per
is.
month. So that's the arithmetic of it. And in your program, where you talk about, retirement, you're in Canada, I'm in the United States, and I will just be blunt. You don't want to be poor in America. You really don't. And even if you think that you have the funds, if you need caregiving services and the cost of care, this is an epidemic in this country for child care. People say you should have children, but they're not inexpensive. Just, and then if both people work or whatever, the family lifestyle, it's expensive. And when I mean expensive, I'm not talking about $5,000 a year. I mean, it could be 20, 30, 40,000 just for childcare. And think about it. If you need caregiving, it might be a short time, or it might be 18 years, depending on, what the situation is for caregiving. So it's expensive. And then you have that on top of your lifestyle. And if, let's say, your caregiving is needed before you retire, or, if you have a spouse or partner, it may cost them their career, or certainly there might be a long period of time where they're not making income. And so to own a long-term care plan, that's why I advocate it. And I don't just advocate it because I just want to sell insurance and make a commission. I want to do it because I think it's important. It's what people they don't want it. A lot of people don't want it because here's something else too. When you think about retirement planning or caregiving planning, it isn't fun, and it isn't something that's immediate. It takes time, and so there's no immediate gratification. A vacation, or you want to buy something, a car, or clothes or something. That's an immediate gratification. I'm in the delayed gratification business. If you really, and it isn't something that I want people, to say, oh, you'll need caregiving, but it's very likely before you die, you will need caregiving, whether in the home or in a care facility. And what also is astonishing to me. And the two things. First, it's astonishing to me that when people have been in a caregiving situation or they've seen it, it doesn't really occur to them to say, gee, maybe I should do something about it. Just the same as retirement. You don't wait till, a week before you retire to say, gee, I think I need a retirement plan. It's a gradual process. And the other thing is that people say, well, it's expensive. And let me also say, long-term care benefits in plans in the United States in the early years, there became a big problem when you had the financial meltdown in 2008, 2009. It disrupted traditional long-term care plans, so premiums went up. And a lot of people were very upset about that and still hold that grudge and feel that they bought a plan and the insurance companies lied. They didn't really lie, but they went. But you can blame it on us that sold these plans. We said there has not been a rate increase, and it's unlikely, and then the unlikely happen. Now plans have changed where the actuarially and the plans are more stable. And in some cases, premiums have gone down, and there are a variety of different plans. There's hybrid plans, there's the traditional, which is not as popular now as the hybrid. But what is more popular in the United States are short-term care plans that in many situations can be as good or better than, if you get a longer-term plan. They can be terrific plans at I think reasonable premiums. That's a long answer to your question.
So when I started, I commented that retirement's supposed to be freedom. What kind of things? Let's get into why we need the long-term care plans instead of, what they might cost. We all know that they're going to be expensive, but life is expensive. What changes when caregiving comes on the scene when you're in retirement for both you and the other person, if you're not the one receiving the care?
Well, depending on, what the issue is, everybody's life is changed. Those that need caregiving and those that will be responsible for caregiving, everything changes. And it can start with the basic home. What's your home like? Meaning, have you done home improvements? Does it need home modification? Does it need grab bars, lighting? Do you have rugs that you could trip on? What kind of furniture you have? What kind of bed? How's your bathroom laid out? Can you, how can you bathe? And it's just a multiple thing. I mean, in a sense, the spouse or partner, if you have one, or friend, they have to do a lot of things that maybe that you normally do, just as you do for a child. But you have all the multiple thing of, you may have to take care of their financial situation, write the checks, make sure whatever if CDs or bonds come due, that you got to do something about that. There are you have to think about medication. What kind of medication? Are they taking it properly? Doctor's appointments. And so, it just goes on. And then there's the shopping and the cleaning and the washing and the bathing and the transferring somebody from one place to another and putting their clothes on and reminding. And you do this day after day, and it's exhausting. And I've seen, personally. We have some dear friends where he was dying of cancer. And the last year was just a nightmare, where she worried about, he'd get up and then he'd fall. And one time he fell, and then he had to go to a care center because he broke his leg. So even if everything is routine, the caregiver is always in worry mode. Always, will they? Can I leave them alone? If I can't leave them alone, can they go to adult care center for a while? Can I get a friend? Maybe a monitor? But all these things that you have to plan. So, but let me also get to something, a story, a personal story where the caregiver, you still have a life even if you need caregiving. And I'll give my father as an example. As time went on in his last, he was in terrible shape. However, they like to travel, and so my mother, scheduled where they usually was a cruise. They could go on a cruise. Just because you need caregiving doesn't mean you don't have a life. It really doesn't. And I know that, living in Gig Harbor, somehow it seems like we moved into a place where there were a lot of older people, and we got older, and everybody else did too. But you see people with canes, walkers, and we go to the diner, and it's either the man or the wife that's in a wheelchair, or not in a walker, and they are helping each other. So it doesn't mean that you can't go out and have social activities. It doesn't mean you can't travel. It's just that you just got to have either people that are helping you so that you can travel, and you can travel, and you can do things. But you need care, either the spouse or the partner, or if you travel someplace like here in Washington State, a lot of people go to Arizona or New Mexico, warmer weather states, and they'll spend 3-4 months. So if you have a care plan, you can travel there. You can, and if you don't believe me, when people are on planes and then they get on and off, you see the conga line of wheelchairs.
Yep.
And so you could hire caregivers. If you own a plan, you can hire caregivers anywhere, to come in and help you. So my point is that just because you need care doesn't mean you're stuck in your home. In fact, it's almost the opposite. You can get unstuck if you have somebody, that is caring for you, that they can dress you, they can, that you can invite people over because the house has housekeeping, or you can go out. But if you don't have that, that's when people feel depressed and lonely, or they say, "Gee, I can't find my shirt," or "I can't, where is such and such." If you have somebody helping you, you can get out and have a social life or a travel life.
That actually leads into my next question. When you're talking to people and they're hesitating about getting long-term care plans or putting them in place, what choices do they think that they're going to have and then discover that they don't have if they don't have a plan in place? And you're talking about that, the getting out and being able to do things. They think that they're not going to be able to do that. But then it turns out that if they don't have the plan in place, that's when they really can't do it.
Well, I mean, if they have enough resources, or they have, family, children, friends, there are a lot of things that family and children and friends will do for them. There are families that have support systems, but somebody's got to organize it. And then, you got to schedule, because, people are working, and most people, need to work to make money. Then you have a scheduling issue. If you don't, and then you have to hire, a caregiver from a licensed care, or you have somebody knows somebody. It used to be, when I first got in this business, it was like $15-20 an hour. It's harder and harder to find somebody at $15-20. It might be 30 or 40, depending on, whether it's an agency. If it's a friend and they're willing to take some stipend, that's great, but it isn't necessarily reliable. And so this, again, disrupts everybody's schedule. And just because even if you own a long-term care plan, or you don't own a long-term care plan, the family and friends, if you have them, then have to take the responsibility, and you have to use your own resources, which means your cash flow. And so this is something where, wealth advisors and financial advocates, financial planners, they all say, well, you have enough, but then if your care expenses start to exceed, your lifestyle, you have to start selling assets, and that's painful. And there are people that have planned in the retirement plan that they want to leave their home or assets to their children. Well, if you need caregiving long enough, you're not going to have as many assets, if any. And I've been on podcasts, or and I have clients that will tell me stories of, the reason I purchased this is because my parents ran out of money, and so I didn't get the inheritance I thought I would, or
Right.
the home, or other. You have to, that's your choice. Is either you have a plan and you have known resources, or you have to start using other resources. Now, there are other ways you can do it. I mean, you can do a reverse mortgage. And sometimes people say, well, if depending what the premiums are, one of the things I say is, if you have a family and they like you, ask them to contribute. Ask them to contribute. When I say contribute, ask them to contribute to the premium in order. So and it's a good investment for everybody. It really is, because if it doesn't, if you say we can hire a licensed care agency, or if they're in a care facility, we know that if it's a good care center, or we have care people that that we like and are reliable. It means that then we can continue our careers, whatever is your career.
So you suggest contributing either in time or effort, or contributing to the premiums. When you look at families and getting a plan, or looking after the long-term care blueprint for the life, what do people generally underestimate the most? The logistics of the whole care process, the emotions that are going to be involved, the relationships among the people that are involved. Where do the problems rise?
Well, let me summarize that, and I alluded to it earlier. Is that most of us are not, don't take courses in caregiving, unless you're in the healthcare field. Most of us, a lot of us really don't know that much about parenting. We can read books on it, but a lot of us, really don't, have to learn about parenting, and even though we sort of have more of an experience about parenting, because most of us started off as children and had parents, or whatever form it may be. But caregiving is not something that usually is in people's consciousness. This is my experience. It's just not in people's consciousness. And where does the consciousness come in? It comes in because either individually you have a caregiving situation. You have a surgery. You sprain your ankle. You have some illness where you just can't do things yourself. You've got to have somebody to help you. So somewhere, but even then, the caregiving consciousness doesn't come in, because it's usually short term. And maybe you can get yourself through it, or maybe there's somebody, for short term. But caregiving, people don't think of it in the long term. Some reasons are because it's sort of invisible. Unless you pay attention to it, caregiving is invisible. And this is the worst thing for those that need caregiving, is that there's several things that people do feel, and it's written about, but I don't know if they really feel, is that if you need caregiving, you feel invisible, if people aren't around you and taking care of it. And I also guarantee you that you feel vulnerable. You'll really feel vulnerable. Now, I've had some severe health issues, and when I do, I feel very vulnerable. And the good news is I have a great family, and that can encourage me. But I've been had depression, and I've had and I felt very vulnerable. How am I going to get myself through this?
Excuse me. I know that it can be tough. It can be hard for the retiree thinking about the future. I know I've had conversations personally about who I want taking care of me, and that sort of thing. And there are different ideas. Some people say, I want my family around me, if I'm in my last days, whatever it might be, however long it might be that I need extra care, I want my family around. Then there are other people who are saying, well, I don't want them to be burdened by that. I want them to have their life and be free to do things. And those are the people, I think, that sort of understand the extent of what long-term caregiving is. And it's hard to, I think, reconcile that in a family, because you're going to have both sides of that showing up. People want to help, people want to be there. And then there are going to be people who say, I've got nothing. I've got nothing to give.
There's a template to this. And the template is that you got to plan in advance, and planning in advance, especially for something that you hope won't happen or you don't want to happen, and so so you delay it, and a lot of times people will wait, that they have a problem. Say, I've had phone calls where people will say, "Well, I'm not. I don't need the long term care. I don't need to want the long term care plan myself. But my mother, my father needs it, and they're coming back from the hospital. And they need it right away." And I said, "Well, there's just nothing I can do unless there are. I mean, if they have assets, I can get them a long term care plan even if they have no health. But they got to have some assets to do it. So I can, if they have the patience and are willing to listen, I can help them. But if not, there's nothing. Then it's social services. Then it's Medicaid. Then it's somebody else that will say, "Yeah, we'll do this for you, but we'll make the rules." And Americans don't. They always say we don't want people to tell us what to do. But there are three things in thinking about caregiving. First of all, and again, it's planning in advance. And what before I even say what the three things are about, it's important that you don't have to do it all at once. You can start with what do I want my caregiving to do? Do I really think I have enough resources? If I don't, perhaps then I should get a long-term care plan that maybe doesn't pay for everything. The premium is affordable or tolerable. So I got that. So I have that in place. But the three things you have is first to have, where do I want my care? Do I want it at home? Is that important to me? Do I want to be in a care center? The second is, who's going to be responsible for my care? And the third thing is, which I alluded to, is how are you going to pay for it? Because caregiving, we can talk about the nobility of caregiving. We can talk about how much fun retirement can be and all the things. And I get back. You can still have a life. You can still do things even if you have some health issue or. There are a lot of people, long before, retirement, that have pre-existing health conditions. They have diabetes. Many people now have neurological diseases, or people that, just have pre-existing conditions because they have, something in their DNA where they have some health issue, heart issue, cognitive, neurological. There are a lot of things that, people can live a full life. But they do have a pre-existing condition.
So I went on your website and I did the little questionnaire to figure out what my predicted care needs would be. So it was kind of interesting, actually.
What was your experience with that? What did you think about it?
It went really well. It was really easy to follow, and I was a little bit surprised with the results that came out, but I also have to think about the fact that you're doing it based on US dollars and US care, that sort of thing. But came out and told me that my likelihood of needing long-term care is about 67%. But it's not going to start until I'm about 87. So I'm happy with that. Yeah, but then I was going to say, but then the cost is kind of staggering. The cost of the care, even for just that, 4 years that they're anticipating I need it, it's going to be quite extensive.
It is, and that's why that's a water lily that I subscribe to. That anybody that goes to my website can do it. There's no fee for it. To get an idea, because I don't want to scare people, but I certainly want to get them to be aware, to say, you can't wait. In other words, you can't wait till you're older to do something. You got to do it. It's in your interest and money to do it earlier for two reasons. One, and it's all about money. One is your health, and the other is premiums are a lot less. And the way I do, it's unlikely, not sure, that whatever plan you own, it's unlikely that there'll be a premium increase. But it's not. It's not precisely guaranteed, but the way they're designing plans, they understand, what they did wrong before, and they've corrected it. Now there may be something else that comes along that is unknown. The other thing that when I first got started in this business is that no matter how much medical information you got, then sometimes it took 2, 3, 4 months to go through underwriting, and it's much more efficient. That upset and annoyed people. The other is that sometimes there were things that would show up in health records that that I didn't know, and they would be declined or they'd get rated, and that upset them. And sometimes there weren't alternative products. There are now. The other thing is that now I have programs where if I get enough information, then I can through the insurance company to find out what plan is most likely to approve you, because that's what upsets people. They may be. It's like an investment. Say, yeah, I put my money in this investment and it didn't go well, so they're upset. So they say, well, I'm never going to do it again. Well, this is sometimes what happens. They got declined. Said, well, my health is good enough that I'm entitled to be, that the insurance company should insure me. It's the opposite. The insurance company decides, who they want to insure, what risk. So I can do it more efficiently, but also the insurance carriers are much more efficient about what kind of medical records to decide whether they will offer a plan. So it's more efficient than it was 15, 16 years ago.
So what can a person do now then if they want to get a long-term care plan, but the insurance companies won't cover them?
Well, depending on the state, because every state has their insurance commission in the United States. So in Oregon, Washington, and California, they won't allow short-term care plans, but in many other states they will. So if you live in a state that can offer a short-term care plan, it's more likely I can get them a plan. Now there's another plan that you don't, so long as you don't need immediate care services. There's a plan called True Freedom, and it's like getting a membership at Costco or some membership at some. It's only for home care services, and it's a subscription, and you can buy a plan starting at $95 a month, I think, and if you want the robust one, it's like $400 a month. But it will pay for home care services almost exactly like a regular long-term care plan, but it's only for home care services. So if you need it for a care center, it won't pay for it. And it does all the same things. And actually, I own a True Freedom plan because our regular long-term care plan has a 90-day waiting period, and so I will use that plan when we need caregiving, to have caregiving, and then when we qualify, then we'll just use our regular long-term care plan.
So that you mentioned not having a place in a long-term care facility. Having a long-term care insurance plan or program in place, does that guarantee you a spot in a facility if you need the long-term care?
Yes. Yes. If you need care center, yes, you'll be guaranteed. And if you come home, there's also a provision that they have to reserve your spot.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, and there was something else I was going to talk about. I forgot the thought. It was a good one, but I can't. I'll
And I thought it was interesting going back to my care timeline that came up on the Water Lily site. Now it tells me that the early care is going to be about 20 months duration, starting when I'm around 87, and then moderate care, and then the full care. So over the course of this, it's only maybe 4 years total, but we'll get to the spot where I need to have the full care when I get to be about 90. Can you looking at that kind of projection, can you um, take a plan that covers just part of your care, like not the early care, but just the full care, or just the moderate care, and balance it in the middle? Does that make sense? What I'm asking? Like,
I think if your question is, can you delay it, when you really need it? Yes, you can apply whenever you or your family says, yeah, it's at that point we want to use the plan. But just because you need caregiving doesn't mean that the insurance we're going to activate the plan automatically. You have to apply for it. In other words, you have to have a doctor's certification that you need, 2 out of the 6, and that's eating, bathing, continence, cognitive. You have to apply for it. So I've had clients that will wait till things are really they really need it, that they'll apply, and before that either they'll get a supplementary plan like a True Freedom, or they'll just pay out of their own resources, and then when they really need it, they'll use it. Does that answer your question?
yeah, I think it does.
Oh,
I was having trouble asking the question.
There was also something else. One of the other things that is that I also advise people is talk to your company. Ask them if they offer a long-term care benefit. If they don't, is a talk to me or their insurance broker about getting a long-term care plan. Because if they do, and let's say you're in your 20s or 30s and they offer a plan, you can get actually a minimal plan, and whether the company pays for it or or they ask you to pay a portion, that is portable in the United States. In other words, if you leave the company and you can take the plan, you can pay the premiums, and then if you have a 5% cost of living, and you're in your 20s or 30s, even if it's $2,000 a month in benefits in your 20s or 30s, just think 5%, and you've waited 40 or 50 years, what it's going to be. So you may never have to buy another plan, and it's going to be $50 a month. Is to encourage, is for people to encourage their companies, if they don't have it, to have a long-term care plan.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you can port it, that's great.
Well, a lot of times, again, sometimes depending on the company, that they will pay at least 50% of the premiums, maybe all of it, and depending where you are in the company, they might pay the full premium. And if you have your own business and you have an LLC, or you can deduct the premiums. Not all of them, but you can deduct a good portion of the premiums. And the other thing that makes it, I think, a good, and I'll say this and I'll qualify why it's a good investment. You say, well, buying insurance, that's not an investment. It's paying premiums and, to the insurance company, and then it goes to money heaven. And I don't know if I'll get it back, but I'll tell you why it's a good investment. It's a good investment if you can deduct it. And it's a great investment because the money that you receive, whether it's a reimbursement or indemnity, meaning cash plan, it's not taxable. It is not taxable. So rather than using your cash flow that is, after tax, it's not taxable. And we're now in tax season in the United States, and people are thinking about their deductions and how they can keep more of their money. You can keep 100% of your money. I think that's a good investment.
Probably is, yes. So if someone, or for someone who can't or doesn't want to buy long-term care insurance or a long-term care plan right now, what could they do to reduce the stress of their life when they're thinking about these sorts of things? What can they do outside of a plan?
just as you looked at the water lily, it talks about lifestyle. It's your lifestyle. If you smoke, stop smoking. If you like beverages, consider consider beverages that are healthier. Exercise. Um, um, what are the so you're the kind of food you eat. Don't have constant processed food, potato chips, and of course, this is also a economic thing that uh, better food costs more money.
Yeah.
Hamburgers, French fries, potato chips, sandwiches that have gravy on it. Those are things that are not good for your health, and it can do a lot, but sometimes it's your genes. Sometimes it's just the family history. For example, in my
Yeah.
family, we have heart issues. So if my wife doesn't kill me, it's probably I'm more likely to die from heart disease, because heart disease has been on both sides of my family. Now my mother avoided it all. On both sides, lived to 103. So there are always exceptions, but you might have there are other pre-existing conditions, neurological, um, and then of course cognitive, and that that's a different kind of health issue, because cognitive can start at early ages, and it can go on for a long time,
Yeah.
and and it's you're healthy, but your brain is in cognitive decline. So, and what do you do? What do you do about that? I mean, there's medication you can take for that, but also as I read, for cognitive is mental stimulation. It's a form of exercise with mental stimulation, but that might not necessarily. And I don't know enough about to say definitively. Hey, if you do this, you won't have cognitive. The usual thing is Alzheimer's, but cognitive can be many things, um,
Right.
and that's expensive in its own right, because if you stay at home, then you really do need somebody all the time to for care, or you need monitoring equipment. Um, and then also depending on are they reasonable where they'll listen to you? They want, because some can get violent, and I mean there can be a life safety issues to say. No, they really need to be in a care center, or their mobility, because if they're not exercising, they get terribly overweight, and then when they're overweight, then they need to be in bed, and then they need, to have I was going to say not conveyor belt, but lifters to help you up, because they don't know. They don't know that they're supposed to exercise. So you got to encourage them, to be in the pool, or other things. And this is is immobility. They call it, couch potatoes. But yeah, exercise, food, beverage. Cigars every once in a while. I'm a cigar smoker, retired, where I do it every once in a while, but I don't do it as much. But I've never been a smoker. So those are some of the fundamental things, and you have to just get in the habit of doing it, because habits are hard things to achieve. Bad. You can say, well, bad
Good
habits, but then
habits.
how do you change your habits? And say, a retirement plan. You want to save, you got to get in the habit. You got to learn how to how to do it. You also need to be in the habit of having your estate plan, and every once in a while, make sure that you have a power of attorney, that you have a medical power, that you have a will, you have and then what do you want to do with your other assets? Oh, there's another thing that actually we're doing is declutter. You don't need as much stuff as you think you do, and and so for family sanity, begin. the stuff you have, and to look around and say, do I really need that? And should I give away, sell, eBay, whatever it is. I'm not saying, live a minimalist life. That's not what but if you look around and you have things on the floor, or you can't, you open up your closet, you're not sure if it'll be an avalanche. Perhaps start there. Clean out your drawers every once in a while. Clean out the drawers. It is astonishing, because we're doing that. We're doing some remodeling in our home. Is that you open up a drawer and you look in it and you say, well, I'll clear the drawer. And it's astonishing. It can take 45 minutes to, empty the drawer and then decide, what to put back and what to put in. So declutter. But the other thing is home modifications. If you're going to stay at home, think about home modifications. And what are the basic things? Grab rails, lighting. Do you have area rugs, or do you, what kind of carpeting do you have? Door handles, do you have leather? Do you have brown? And if you have arthritis or something, is to decide what kind. It may seem innocuous. It may seem like, I need to think about that, but it's not that expensive. I'm not saying it's free, but if you have to do it all at once and it costs you $15,000, $20,000, you can say, well, that's expensive. But if you do it incrementally and you look around, then
and that's
you've spread out the costs.
And that's so true. You don't think of things, even the little things like grabbing your doorknob to turn it. If you're prone to arthritis, there's going to be a time when you can't grab that doorknob and turn it. So change them to levers is a pretty simple thing to do.
Yeah, and your bathtub. I mean, maybe you need a different kind of bathtub, or shower heads, or mats. These are things you can easily buy online, and then somebody, or you yourself are can install these things. The other, it might be security cameras, monitors. Your phone is to think, and you might think, there aren't that many items. Actually, when you start thinking about all the things, there's a lot of things to do. But what I say to myself, as I encourage other people, is that you don't have to do it
all at once
on Wednesday.
Yeah,
start on Monday, and if it takes you 6 months or a year, it takes you 6 months or a year. What's the rush? But if you do it consistently, you also get in the habit that it isn't as awful, because you're in the habit of doing all these home modification, or even changing light bulbs. This is one of the things that people, if family members come to somebody's home, they find out half their light bulbs are out, and the home isn't clean, and the refrigerator, that you have more things in your refrigerator than what should be in the refrigerator. It's because it could be a cognitive that people start slipping, and they just say, well, or vision. Maybe they have vision issues, that they don't see what other people are seeing. So this is where good lighting does matter. And where you have the lighting, and also your chairs and your sofas. When you sit down in them, when you're younger you can get up, but when you're older, getting up, is a little bit more strenuous. So make sure you have the couches or the chairs that you can get up, or if you have somebody that you give. They give their hands, you give their hands. They help you up. But and furniture can make a difference. And those are some of the general ideas. Where do some of the big problems happen? Your bathroom. People slip in the tub or the shower. Is to make sure that if somebody goes in themselves, that they can do it without slipping or falling and hurting themselves.
Those are all good things to think about. There's a lot of stuff to go along with aging. I think that some of us don't really think about until it comes the time when you need it.
Exactly, and so and who becomes responsible for that? It usually
Yeah.
isn't. It's somebody comes in and it's like they'll go through a stimulus overload. Is they'll come in and they'll see all these things. Oh, there's also something whether it's pre-retirement or retirement is have your documents where they can be found, whether it's digital or manual, and it's where's your insurance, where's your health care card, what are the passwords? That's also a big thing now. Is does somebody know the passwords to your banking accounts and your savings accounts? Either write them down or have them in a place that somebody can find them. Your legal documents. Now I do both. I have it both in manual form and in digital. And if you say, well, it's over, that's too much. I say again, do it incrementally. Get a folder. Make a copy of your Social Security card. Make a copy of your Medicare card. Any other cards that somebody would need, somebody that would need to find, and tell somebody, whether it's your professional advisors or a family member that you trust, is and have it in one filing cabinet. Have it in one place. Don't have it in 7 places. You don't want to be Sherlock Holmes to try to figure out all keep it. And let somebody know. But that also is a panic. And I've had people that will have called me, say, look, I'm helping my father, and I don't know where any of his documents are. And those are immediate things, especially your healthcare card.
That's a good reminder.
Yeah.
So Raymond, if someone wants to get in touch with you to talk about long-term care plans or all of the things that we've discussed today, where can they find you?
They can find me on my website, www.lavineltcins.com, levineltcins.com. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn, Raymond Levine. And a couple of things to just say on my website is that if you go, as you did, to the upper left, you can find out, your longevity. If you go to the lower bottom of my website, you can ask questions. Now, I used to have a frequently asked question. It was, it'd be like 48 things. And I personally, I find that annoying, sometimes I never find what I'm looking for. You can go and it's AI generated. You can put in, what is long-term, what is long-term care insurance? And it will answer that question. Or if you have a specific question of, will it do this? It's more likely that you'll get, that kind of, it'll answer the question that you want, not all the 47 or 57 or 87 frequently asked questions that I know about. It may be that one question that you want to know. It's more likely that will answer that either before or after we have the conversation. The other thing is that I do have a long form and a short form health assessment, because anytime that you talk to anybody about any kind of insurance, but especially for long-term care, it's all about health assessment. And so what helps me is if I get a health assessment. And something I've learned is I used to, in the early days before I had this, I had to manually ask somebody all these questions, and I'd forget something, or they would. But people are, if they could fill it out, actually more honest about it, because it's asking that that question. So they're more. I get more reliable, and that I'll get away from honest. It's more reliable. But if you fill that out. And it's encrypted, it's secure. You'll never see it on anywhere in social media. But it is important to people. When you fill out information, it doesn't ask for your social security number. It doesn't ask for your bank account number. It doesn't ask for any of that stuff. But what it does, it can either be in great detail or just a general idea of your health. And actually, speaking of that, for health, I mean, I keep a health record. I use Evernote, but I keep a health record. And that's also helpful, for my vaccines, when I go to the eye doctor, when I go to the
Yep.
dermatologist, when I have my annual physical, or if there's something, or my heart doctor. I keep I scan, and I have, as part of my medical records, because I forget. I mean, somebody said, "What did you do?"
Yep.
And so, but I have it in organized notebooks, and I just, each time now, I'm just in the habit, when I when I have the eye doctor appointment, I'll put in, the information, and scan it in. So it's just it isn't even thinking. It's just a manual. It's just a manual process. It's not. Once you have that set up, it's not that hard to do. So those are. So yeah, if I can get a health assessment, that really helps, because the first thing everybody asks me is, how much does it cost? What's the premium? And I'll say,
Yep.
well, I don't know, because I need to find out something about your family history. Does everybody die at 58? Or is everybody, people live a lot longer? The last person that needed caregiving, or before they died, how long were they ill before they died? And somebody could say, well, on Tuesday they were fine, and Wednesday they were dead. Well, that's fast. But the more information I have, then I can say, and then I get into the thing. The first question I ask is, what do you want your long-term care plan to do? What do you want it to do? And I listen to their story. I don't tell them what I believe. I want to know what's important to them. And when I have that, then I can design a plan or plans, and say, look, this will do this, and this is the premium, and we can adjust it. It isn't just one size. You're not just going into a dealership and saying, we only have one car, and it's $50,000, and take it or leave it, lease it. There are all kinds of variations to this long-term care plans and planning, and it's customized to what do you want your plan to do.
Okay, that's good to know. I think a lot of people think, at least I did, that it's just kind of a package deal. This is what you're going to get, and this is how long it's going to be. And it's good to know that you can mix and match a little bit.
Well, we can, we can guess at it, because when the first time I looked at long-term care was 1998 or 1999, and the insurance agent said, you only need it for 2 years. And I thought, I said, how do I know I'm going to need it? I don't, he decided how long I would need it. My mother needed it for 18 years. That's a little bit.
Yeah.
That's 9 times longer than 2 years. So we don't know. Now, one of the things that also in these plans, if you get, there's certain plans you can get that if you don't use all the funds and you die, the residual funds will go back into the estate tax-free. Yeah. So the term it used to be for traditional, use it or lose it. So and that was a true insurance plan, just like car insurance. If you never use it, you paid all those years,
it's gone.
It's the premiums are gone, but but I should. Well, of course, in the United States, if you own a car, it's mandatory. You have to own a plan. It's no matter, even if you show, hey, I'm worth $1 billion. It's you still have to have a
insurance plan.
auto
Yes.
insurance. You don't have to do that for caregiving, which is it's more likely that you're going to need caregiving than your house is going to burn down. And we actually have been in a situation, our house burned down. So, but for most people that doesn't happen. So it's more likely you're going to need caregiving. But most people, they own homeowners insurance, apartment insurance, umbrella policy, maybe car insurance, health insurance, and The two you're most likely is you're going to use your health insurance, and it's very likely you're going to need caregiving insurance, or caregiving expenses from your own resources. And the other thing is, look, if you hire your family, that's not free. It's sometimes they'll be reimbursed, but if you have to give up your career and you have whatever amount of money you're making, it's gone. It's gone along with whatever you're contributing to Social Security or whatever it is in Canada. That's delayed. So don't own a plan. You think you're saving premiums? It'll cost you. It may cost you a lot more. Somewhere else. So is it worth 250? Depending on whether it's individual or family, is it worth 250, 300, 400? Yes, because it's astonishing. People will spend $1,000 a month or $800 a month to lease or finance a vehicle, and they'll put up with that because it's a vehicle, and they'll say, but if I own a plan, it's too much money. Well, here's the arithmetic of it. Would you rather spend $250, $300, $400 for a plan that will probably pay you, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a month for however many years that the plan is devised, or do you want to pay that $7,000 or $10,000 or $15,000 out of your own lifestyle expenses?
Yeah, it's a gamble that people take, and it's a gamble that they're going to probably lose.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, if you want a plan, it's more of a risk. If it's a plan that if you don't use it, or you only you don't use as much as you thought you would, at least you have something, because it's the worry. People, what besides my wondering whether my wife is mad at me or not, or if I've done some unconscionable deed, the second thing that they say that public speaking is the thing that people fear most. I think it's the thing that people fear most is money worries. How are they going to pay paying their bills, having a lifestyle? Money is a worry.
Yep, it definitely is. Well, Raymond, we could probably continue to talk about how important this is for another couple of hours, but I think we're going to have to cut it off here. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. I think I know a lot more about long-term care plans now, about the importance of them and the benefits of them, and I think my listeners do as well. Thank you very much for joining us today.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Jackie.
And that's it for this episode of Beyond Retirement. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I hope you enjoyed it. Are you ready to start rocking your retirement? Head on over to www.beyondretirement.ca/rocking it and sign up to plan out your own roadmap for retirement. Don't wait till it's too late.